Hello, everybody. Welcome in, and may the 4th be with you. May the 4th, Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. We're ready to kick this one off literally, and we'll get right into it. We got some breaking news that's coming down just minutes ago. Michigan adding, according to Hudson Hollenbeck. Hey, Hollenbeck. He has indicated that he is committed to Michigan, and he is a kicker. Thanking Jay Harbaugh and JT Brown for believing in him and presenting him with this amazing opportunity. He says he's committed to Michigan. So there you go. A kicker. Now, could be a punter, could be a field goal kicker, could be a kickoff specialist. Any of those three, all of those three, we've got to wait and see. Coming down to competition, if you were somebody who's counting scholarships and you could say, what's going on here? I got to understand that because I just did get a transfer from Louisville last week, and they do have a preferred walk-on coming in. They do have a scholarship kicker coming in the fall, but you got to get that right. And it could be when it's coming down to Jim Harbaugh and company. They like Jake Moody so much, saying we got to get a lot of competition. We need the next Jake Moody. Let's just keep throwing many assets as we can afford at special teams. And if we get it right, we get it right. So good luck to see if they end up getting it right from Hollenbeck. As people were saying over on the Maize and Blue Review, ain't no Hollenbeck girl or whatever from what's her name? Gwen Stefani, I think, sings It Ain't No Hollenbeck. So we'll hear that in the future. That just came down the pike. I hope everybody is having a good day. You might think, okay, well, what else are you talking about? Well, we're talking wide receivers today. Harbaugh, wide receivers, and the NFL draft. Michigan just had a wide receiver drafted in this last draft. We'll look back at Harbaugh's tenure. We'll look ahead because this weekend you're on wide receiver commitment watch if you're a Michigan fan, and we'll get into that. And Michigan, if you were holding out hopes that Hunter Dickinson was going to come back, those hopes are now over as he is out officially, and we know where he's headed. So all of that for you on this Thursday, including your feedback, which, we are always happy to look at to see where you're at. You're the Michigan fan. You're sitting here on a May 4th thinking, what are we going to talk about today with Michigan? Well, you just heard about it. Some of the news going on with the Wolverines and what you're thinking about. JP saying, what's up today to everybody. Everybody just give it a shout out. And it's good. There's nothing wrong with some shout outs. I'm big on shout outs. So let's do it. Let's get to it. And let's start it out with some recruiting news. And those of you that tune in frequently know that I want you to join the Maize and Blue Review today. I just ask you, you having fun here today? Sometimes my watch is answering my questions. Are you having fun here today? Now she's not answering any questions. I'm asking you if you're having fun here today, listening to, talking about, discussing Michigan football. Well, that's what we do every day, all night on the Maize and Blue Review. And you can get involved with that by going to michigan.rivals.com and joining up. And there's always been it's always a good time to join up, but now that you're getting into where you're getting into May, you're getting into June and July, that Michigan football and basketball and other news, it's it's not out there all the time right in your face. Well, it's here all the time on the Maize and Blue Review, and you want to know recruiting, basketball, portal news, that's all in there for you as well. So I'm hoping to see some of you over there on the Maize and Blue review. Go to michigan.rivals.com. Well, Michigan had an offensive lineman named Harold Goodwin a few years back, and Harold's son, Shannon Goodwin, is a wide receiver at Providence Day High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. That high school probably rings a bell because Providence Day is where Michigan quarterback commitment Jaden Davis is the signal caller at, and Goodwin is one of his wide receivers. So you've in Davis is trying to get Goodwin, and he's trying to get the other wide receiver and other players to head to Michigan, get that pipeline going from Charlotte to Ann Arbor. And Shannon Goodwin has said on Twitter that he is making a decision this weekend, specifically on Sunday. And if you're a betting man, which many of you are, the odds are in favor of the maize and blue and being able to get Goodwin. And for this particular show, people want wide receivers. They want talented wide receivers. And Goodwin is that. He is a 3-star wide receiver ranked by Rivals. He does have some film out, and being able to watch the film of Shannon Goodwin is fun because what you get is a 2-for-1, because his quarterback is Jaden Davis, and the circle on the screen that you'll be looking at lined up in the slot right here is Shannon Goodwin. Might be the first time that you ever see him haul in a touchdown. That was like taking candy from a baby. Great throw, great catch. They made it look so easy. I watched the first 2 or 3 minutes of film on Shannon Goodwin, the wide receiver from Providence Day. And Davis and Goodwin, they make it look so easy. We know it's not easy. And we know talented guys in high school can make it look easy because they're the competition. And even if it's good competition, these guys are Division I players. But these highlights, it's just Davis just sitting back there surveying a pitch, a catch. He has the time in these highlights. Here's one where Goodwin is split out wide, but just comes back and just weaves through traffic, gets stopped short of the goal line here, but he's good run after the catch. You can see that. It's got some ability with run after the catch. It looks like most of his where he's lining up is mostly in the slot. There's a touchdown in the corner, but you've got a Division I quarterback throwing to you. You're a Division I wide receiver, and you can make it look easy. There's a couple that are in traffic, like this one. It's a double team. You can even say triple team there. Perfect throw and easy catch. Right here, you've got the wide receiver coming back to the ball. That was a good sign. Terrible tackle by the one kid. He's going to thinking, what the heck? I'm out here. I'm giving him. We're giving this guy 10 yards. We're allowing him to come back and catch it. You got to get him on the ground. They didn't even come close to touching him. And if it was 2-hand touch. Now here's another one from Davis. Just easy throw. You got to put some pressure on him or you're in trouble. That would have been a touchdown. Actually, Davis, if you're Goodwin, you might go back and say, hey, come on, throw it. Get it out there for me. If you're able to do that, I would have scored a touchdown. Here he is in the slot. No resistance. Turns and goes up. That was a nice catch. Over the shoulder. After it looked like it was going to be a seam route, went towards the sideline. The ball was there. Here he is in motion in the right slot. A little run after the catch, I think, on this one. This might be where I stopped it. Run after the catch, breaks one tackle, breaks another one. Does he get it to the end zone? Where's the ref? It did. Touchdown. I saw it there at the end, right at the right. We'd have to go to replay. I don't think they have replay in high school. That was right on the line. Davis can really zing it. That might be the most impressive one I saw right there. Throwing it down 20-yard lines, down to 2 or 3, makes a nice catch in traffic, and then just once he makes the catch, he's looking to go. And, boy, again, nice and easy. Packed stadium, where they're even in the end zone. Didn't even have any stadiums like that in high school in Michigan. But these high school corners and high school DBs, they're allowing these receivers to just get free run off the line. They're not able to put any pressure on the quarterback. This looks like some 7-on-7 stuff. There's a little split leg catch in the end zone, touchdown. But super easy. Everything that's going on here is a little fake screen down the sideline. Nobody covers him. I'd say I would be able to score there because I wouldn't have been into the end zone as fast as he was. But, that was easy. That was as easy as it gets. The only thing about Davis, Davis is going to be really good. Maybe, every quarterback is good. You don't put any pressure on him. I got to watch some of the game tape. These highlights, nobody comes close to, nobody's getting within 5 yards of Jaden Davis. He rolls out, nobody's on him, slings it out there. Jaden Davis right there looked like Aaron Rodgers rolling out to the right and just firing that one, except nobody's even coming close to touching him. And here's another one in the pocket. Boom. So you like him. You like what you see when you watch the tape. You want one more? All right. Here's one in the slot over the left. Davis is looking at him the whole way. Goes up, puts it up high, and he high points it, brings it in, and catches it there. It was a nice throw, nice catch, and, it's addictive. You say one more, and then there's always one more that's coming your way. Here's one. The guy tried to go up and catch it with him. He said no. Boxed him out a little bit down at the 20-yard line. First down. Providence Day. Like I say, we can go on all day doing this. Can I get there? Put it over there in the corner a little bit while we take some feedback. Let's do it. See where everyone is at with this potential pickup for Michigan. Mark is asking who's looking good other than upside for Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, upside needed from every area to win the Big Ten or better. JJ, Corum, Graham, Grant, Hausmann, one of the Magnificent Seven, endless list. But are there any proven elite coming in with your fingers crossed? Proven elite coming in. Well, the center, Drake Nugent. I don't know about elite. I mean, is it elite? Are you top 2 in the country? He is one of the elite centers, and he was the top guy to get. So I think he would be in the category as one of the transfers. I also think that Josiah Stewart, everybody, a lot of teams wanted him. And then what we saw from him in the spring game, I don't know if you mentioned Stewart, Mark. No, you didn't. I would think that, I don't know, elite mean like Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum are elite. JJ McCarthy is elite. The possibility of the wide receivers, any of them elite, like I have said, I'll say it again today. Roman Wilson, you mentioned him. I think he could be elite. Colston Loveland, I believe, could be elite. So I think both of Michigan's guards are elite, but you're talking about guys that are coming in. So on the offensive side, I would say Drake Nugent. On the defensive side, I would say Josiah Stewart. Anybody else you want to put into the elite category as we think about it coming in out of the Magnificent Seven? I don't know about elite as of yet. Andre's looking forward to the weekend. I'm taking tonight. I'm really excited about today and tonight. It's going to be for me, a great day. I mean, as a sports fan and some other things as well. Mark has put in the first like. What's the good word for today? The good word for today is mushrooms, Mark. That's what's going on with me. That's the good news today. Richard watched a few Ohio tubers today. They are defensively delusional. Mark wants a discussion of players going early to the show. Hinton, Bell, Green, who's Bell? Maybe another year. Michigan, well worth it. 6 or 7 undrafted free agents. I don't know exactly where you're at on this. Maize the fourth be with you. I kind of like the twist on that, Scott. How about it? I broke out a little in the spirit of Star Wars and everything else. I can't say that I've watched the Mandalorian. I know everybody likes it, and this is my son's, but I have I always did. I was like little CP30. We'll have him answer some questions. Michigan is looking very good. Or Channing Goodwin coming up. Maize the fourth be with you, Scott. All right. Where else? Antoine. Oh, you finally watched some YouTube podcast, Richard. Told you those guys are delusional. Well, I've never watched an Ohio YouTuber. I don't know if I've ever watched any other Michigan YouTubers. Maybe a couple minutes here or there to get a feel for the competition. But in general, you're getting, fans of the program. And, for me who worked in the media, I always had a little bit of a separation. I found that the closer you are to following the team, the less you are a fan of it because you have to ask some tough questions at times with the coaches. That's been proven wrong. I've noticed that there are plenty of Michigan guys who were complete fanboys and just complete Maize and Blue fans, and they haven't changed up at all. They'll go in, they got their Michigan hats on, and they'll be like, "Jim, you're a real attractive man. What's going on today?" It's like, hey, and it's worked for them. So who am I? I'm not really criticizing them. I'm just talking. I think most people, my point is, that are running a podcast, and if they were Ohio State podcasters, they're going to feel pretty good about it. And, if I just had to think about myself as an Ohio State podcaster right now, I would look back and last year, super disappointment losing to Michigan. But they got a shot in the college football playoff. And, getting there, look at Michigan's a little disappointed with getting to the college football playoff and losing to TCU. If I was an Ohio State podcaster, I would lean on being one play away, one kick away from winning a national championship. And there's really no argument with that, Antoine. They had a kick, and if they make it, they're going to beat Georgia. And I think all of you think that, and I think that Ohio State would have beat TCU in a national championship game. So if I'm an Ohio State podcaster, I'm looking towards that. I'm also looking at a second year for a coordinator. You're always, even if you're a pessimist, I don't know, you're a pessimist, the second year with a new coach, the terminology, you're going to look on the bright side of that with the terminology. And if you're somebody that follows recruiting, like I know you do, Coach, and Ohio State, look at where Michigan is sitting right now, feeling really good about recruiting. Ohio State's always there. They're always bringing in reinforcements that they can feel good about it. So the point to that is, I don't know how delusional it is for Ohio State. I felt like, and Michigan's owned them the last 2 years. That part's been awesome. No doubt about it. Looks like the highlight of Goodwin's done. Michigan smacked them down in Columbus, and doing it 2 years in a row. It wasn't a fluke. It looks like the thing is turned and everything. But I was looking at Ohio State, like, as much as I like Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, and I looked down and said, well, who are the other teams in all of college football that have the kind of talent at running back that even can come close to Michigan? Number one on the list, Ohio State. Trevion Williams or Mayan Williams, Trevion Henderson, those guys are, you can make the case that they're better. I don't know. Maybe that's, stretch it a little bit. If you're using the prep rankings, you probably can make that case. And then you start looking at the wide receivers. And if you care about a 5-star, and you do, you'd feel pretty good. So I don't know how delusional it is to feel good about Ohio State. I mean, I have to ask if you're being like, it's great to be a homer. It's fun to be a homer. Why would you want to be, in the rest of your life, you've got to look at everything and try to look at all sides and weigh things. Why would you want to do that with your football team? But I'm here to tell you that if you're looking at Ohio State and automatically chalking it up as a dub, or think they're in some kind of free fall, or that Ryan Day is some kind of clown that is now back to first base when he woke up on third base, maybe that's true. But I wouldn't just completely, I would at least think that they could be dangerous. Now, let's be honest. Let's be honest. You might say, and I think I will say it, I might have already said it, that Penn State's going to be Michigan's toughest game on the schedule because it's in Happy Valley. And Michigan gets Ohio State at home. But do you really think it, and I don't know, it were cakewalks, even though the final score kind of feels like 45-23, only scoring 3 points in the second half, kind of feels like a cakewalk. And the year before, 42-27. You kind of look at the score, you say, you don't have to worry about the refs call. It kind of feels like a cakewalk. Like, those weren't cakewalks. So this part, and about Buckeye guys being delusional, I don't know. Who's being delusional, Coach? Is it the Buckeye podcasters that I have no idea what they're talking about? Or is it the Michigan fan that's watching an Ohio podcast? Now, might not like any of that. You don't like the direction that's going. I'm just wondering who's delusional and what are we talking about, really? Chuck, outside of fireable issues, coaches have a fire-hire window to work in tandem with player transfer windows to keep it somewhat under control. There is a transfer window that they've been working with. They've changed that. Like it was this last Sunday was a window for the spring transfer window. So they have adjusted, and I think they will. I don't think they will keep looking at it and fine tuning it. It is a free for all. It has been, but even from last year, they've tried to adjust it a little bit. So that continues on about, looking at what they can do. Ohio fans are the most delusional fan base in all of sports. Richard agrees. Propaganda video. Nothing is ever bad or wrong. The sky is always scarlet and gray in Columbus. AJ's looking to a linebacker, Cole Sullivan. High 4-star, severely underrated. Looking at Cole Sullivan. I was looking at a little bit of him today, Antoine, and he was, I saw a picture of him standing next to his dad. And his dad, the kid was a chip off the old block there. But the thing that struck me about his dad is, like, you take the kid and then pack like 60 pounds of muscle on him. I don't know, whatever, he's a high school junior right now. Pack 60 pounds of muscle on him, and there's his daddy right next to him. It's like, whoa. I like that. I like what I was looking at there. Let's see. Mark is talking about Hausmann versus a Jabril Peppers and Bush assessment. Too big of a reach. Bush didn't really excel until his second year. Yeah, I think if you're looking, like, I like Ernest Hausmann, but I don't think what you're talking about with Peppers and Bush, these guys were great players. And so you can't have everybody coming in, be a solid contributor. That's what I'm looking for with Hausmann. We don't know if he's even going to win the job. So, Peppers was all Big Ten. Peppers was one of the great Michigan football players. Bush was a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. So let's, I know you're putting it down just for fun. But this is a little bit of a reach. Can they get better production from their linebackers this year than they did last year? They certainly have more depth. That's what I would be saying about Hausman. I'm not really ready for any kind of bush peppers. Those guys are great football players. Great. JP has not done the research on the conference. But let's be honest, as a former coach, most of the dudes they're playing against are literally half the skill level of those two. That's going back watching the tape of Goodwin and watching the tape of Jaden Davis. Yeah, Jason, I have to admit, I have spent my life watching college football and pro football and looking at how the college players translate into NFL players. And when it comes to high school, I've only been to since I played my last football game as a sophomore in high school, I've only been to one high school football game in 30 years, almost 30 years. That is, you say, well, what? It's just how things have worked with my job. I know plenty of you, Jason coaching in it, plenty of you recruiting, you go to high school games. It's great, Friday night lights, everything. But so, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to get to the high school level and go through the mechanics of what I'm actually looking at there. Like, if I was just watching it, I could say, yeah, these two guys look like they're head and shoulders. I mean, watching Jaden Davis just stand back there throwing darts all over the field, what's he going to look like when he gets pressure on him? I don't know. I mean, it's pretty easy if you're a quarterback and you get all the time in the world and you're able to survey everything and just lay it out there. Well, so I don't know. I'm not really sure how, they've got the camps that they're able to work with and look at it. AJ still talking about the Sullivan kid. Mark looking at Joe Burrow under pressure at LSU in the small windows. Much different than Lawrence throwing to, could be more wide open. What are we talking about with Lawrence? Trevor Lawrence? I'm lost on that one, Mark. Sorry. Yeah, Jason, you're going to watch the tape a little bit differently than most other people. Venice says that Goodwin looks underrated. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe. Andres is more interested in my thoughts on Cutter Boley. There's talk of him changing to the 24 class. Should Michigan still go after him if he does? Seems like a lot are scared it will run Davis off. Well, look, I'm all about competition, but I am not about, I'm interested in Cutter Boley if he wants to be a Michigan quarterback in 25. I'm interested in him. But I am not interested in Boley if he wants to reclassify and come in next year. Like, having a quarterback in 24 in Jaden Davis and having one in 25 in Boley, or having one from right down the street, as we talk about quite a bit, the quarterback from Belleville. I'm all about that kind of competition. So the answer is, should Michigan still go after Boley if he wants to reclassify? No, I would not do that. With certain positions, you have to, in the higher ranked players, and you say, look, you're going to be our guy. You're the only one we're going after, and that's it. So there could be the idea. I don't know about it scaring him off, but he could be like, hey, wait a second. You said I was going to be the only guy. Now you're going after somebody else? So no, I don't think when you say there's talk of him, I would want to see the source of there's talk. I mean, there's nothing wrong with fans on a posting board. There's nothing wrong with fans, like as we sit here right now, reading feedback from Michigan fans. But I would shut down that talk immediately, and I would ask anybody who's making that type of talk or having that type of talk and wondering, like, why? Why would you think of that? Why would you even consider that? That sounds, I'm going to say it, and I like all Michigan fans, and Even the people that are covering Michigan, I can't believe there'd be anybody that would be covering Michigan that would be the source, but there'd be fans. But it's that's silly talk. You want to talk about getting a quarterback next year from Belleville and bringing him in? That's some legit talk. But bringing one into the same class? Come on, Andres. Who's talking that way? Venice likes Goodwin. Yeah, 6'1". What are they? Let me see what I saw. What he said, and then I saw what Rivals had him at. No, that's not what I was looking for. Let's see. This is what I'm looking for. 6'1", 175. A Goodwin on his Twitter page had himself up to 180. So 6'1", let's call him 178. Yeah. Yeah. That's nice size. Let's go. Yeah, for me, people be like, 3-star. I'm not as excited about it. I think you should be excited about this guy. Mark, this is true, Mark. My sense is that almost all D1 players were exceptional and can be good, elite, another issue altogether. And I do hear what you're saying about that, Mark. It's one thing, like, if you are somebody that watches high school, I mean, you can watch high school for whatever high school you're watching for 10, 20 years, and you may never have a Division I prospect, let alone talking about a Big Ten prospect, let alone talking about one of the elite programs. If Michigan is recruiting you, like, as a high school player, you're like Superman. I mean, that's what I've seen from the high school ranks. Like, there's guys that are outstanding, and you're like, yeah, that guy's going to college. Oh, or, that guy's, you say, just, he's not Big Ten caliber, and these guys can be awesome. But if you're somebody that Michigan's interested in, you get a scholarship offer from Michigan, these guys are like Jerry Rice, like Megatron out there. And that's the tough part of watching these players that are clearly, way above the talent. You got to say, projecting them, at the next level. And that's what these coaches are able to do. They're pretty good at it. Antoine says, I think if Michigan gets Boley, he would have to change classes. Incorrect. If you're talking about, because right now he is for 25. So you would not want him to change classes. But I think if there's an interesting part to this, if Cutter Boley called up today and said, hey, I want to commit, I'm in, and I was Jim Harbaugh, how would the conversation go? This is how I think it would go. Cutter, hang on. And then I think Jim would get on the phone and he would say, Bryce, we've got somebody that wants to get in today. What are you thinking? I don't know how that conversation goes. But it could be like the bird in the hand. You have to think about it to yourself. Do you want Boley? If it means, and if you get Boley, you're not getting Underwood. So, but if you get Boley, you might think that you don't have a shot anyways with Underwood. And maybe that's why Underwood has been in Ann Arbor so much, because Harbaugh has been calling him and saying, look, we would love for you to be our guy, the only guy that we're going after. Why don't you come in and let's talk about it? Let's talk about you being our only guy. And when Boley calls, we'll say, yep. Why don't you wait on that commitment? Am I far off on that? I don't know exactly how Michigan looks at it, but I think that's pretty close with how they look at it. That's how I'm looking at it. Mark's got a lot to say, talking about high school. Andre says Roman Wilson is approaching elite YouTube status. Yeah, look, I am all about Roman Wilson. Elite status, I think that he is underrated by Michigan fans. I don't know about, so probably if he's underrated by Michigan fans, he's probably underrated by the rest of college football. We'll get to the mushrooms coming up. Yeah, I want to keep those mushrooms away from Penny. You're right about that. The punters watched a couple OSU podcasts for a week after the game last year. I could see doing that. I could see that. I know there's a lot of people, like, if you like to listen to fans cry about their team and hear the pain in their voice. I mean, I get that part. Now, we have talked a lot about wide receivers, and I like Roman. I think Michigan's looking pretty good with the wide receivers that they have coming up next year, and yet, when you talk about the transfer portal, the spring transfer portal, I have seen people say, "Well, is Michigan going to pick up a wide receiver?" They say the same thing about corner. Michigan is interested in a corner, as we talked about yesterday. But if you wanting an elite wide receiver, I understand. I looked back in the Jim Harbaugh era at wide receivers that were drafted in the Jim Harbaugh era. So that starts with the 2016 draft, and you get into the 2017 draft, and here you go. You had a pair of wide receivers that went, and Amara Darboh and J.U. Chesson, who went in the third and fourth round. Then you didn't have a receiver go. He was a 5-star, but let's be honest about DPJ. DPJ could take off from the line of scrimmage, and he could fly and take the top off the defense, but that was about it. And he had a quarterback that really couldn't get him the ball down the field, so that hurt Donovan Peoples-Jones, because he's doing a nice job in the pros with the Browns. He had a nice year last year, I should say. He's been all right. And last year, it was his best year. He was drafted in the 5th round. When you get a 5-star local guy like DPJ, I was expecting, I say a lot more. I was expecting more from Jones. Nico Collins has been Michigan's highest drafted wide receiver in the Harbaugh era. I was disappointed. I mean, he took off after the pandemic, and you're like, come on, man. You could be part of something great. And he was like, no, he's done a nice job. There isn't a lot going on in Houston, but he's done a nice job as a 3rd-round pick there for the Texans. So it's worked out well for Nico. And then Ronnie Bell. I think about the wide receivers, DPJ, Nico. Who else did they have? Tariq Black. I mean, you can imagine when I was sitting around that summer talking about it, it's like, man, this offense is loaded. It was loaded. The offense that was coming back when Shea Patterson was had already played a year, and they had Black and Collins and right down, man. And you looked at the running, I felt really good about that team. And so there it is. Let's see. No wide receivers coming in as late transfer unicorn rats. Antoine wanting to get into it here. He says it's one thing to be a fan, but there's a difference when everything is great and even when there's a clear-cut problem and you can't admit it. Yeah, that's right. That's true. And there's a lot of people that can't do that, Antoine. There's a lot of fans. There's a lot of media. There's a lot of YouTubers that are not able to do that. I think you're spot on about that. I think that's why you tune in here, because you know that you're going to get, you're going to get a fair, reasonable opinion. That does have. Okay, it's the Maize and Blue review that is coming from a Michigan side. So that's it. If OSU had Moody, they'd have a title right now. Ooh. I can't argue to that. Antoine's urging me to listen to an Ohio State podcast. Maybe I should do that, Antoine. I can get some of the sound, see how it's going there. I don't know. How is this for delusional? The quarterback is better than JJ. McCord is better than JJ. Well, if you're again, I think it's an easy thing to do, Antoine. If you are a big time recruiting fan that puts your trust into recruiting rankings, then you can say that you got a shot at a McCord being, as good as the last two quarterbacks that they have, which could put them, which I could see how they could say that. I could also, if you're the people that you trust, you have the recruiting, but then you have like whoever you're watching, you're saying your podcasters, if you believe in those guys and these guys are telling you something, I can see how that could happen. Now, being highly rated and then, doing it on the field, those are going to be two different things. Does he have all the things around him? He's got the receivers, he's got the running back. We don't know about the line. I think, McCord, we'll see. I don't know. Like, it was a spring game. Remember watching Justin Fields in the spring game, and I thought, this is nothing. This is nothing great. And watching McCord in the spring game, there's nothing great there. But the offensive line, let's see. If he doesn't have the time, that could be an issue for him. They don't think they need to change anything. It's all flowers and rainbows because of their talent. Well, I like at this point, it reminds me a little of, I don't know, Ohio State and Lion fans would be a little bit weird comparison, but I'll go with the Lion fans right now. Lion fans have a hard time because, they haven't won anything. And every year and every couple of years, whoever their coach is and whoever their GM is, they just fully jump in and whatever these guys do. I mean, it is the most perfect thing and they're not listening to anything else. And that happens with football fans. And with Ohio State right now, they've got their head coach, they've got their defensive coordinator. And so why look at things realistically or just, completely just dive in and feel like that it's going to happen for you? I mean, I could get that part, but I don't know. Anyone who thinks OSU is not elite is blind. You could say you might like the upside of your quarterback from their point of view, but to say they're better, you can't go there yet. Yeah, that is the way to put it, Chuck. Nice job. I think that's right. It can be like, this is a guy that they've had their eyes on, that they've recruited, that was supposed to be one of the best, and now he's just got to go out there on the field and prove it. He's also going to have to do it on the road in November. So good luck, with that part. They're the wide receivers, and that's it. Take a couple more here on the feedback. And, Chuck, so far I'm going to say this, nothing against anybody else, but I like how Chuck put that one. Feeling pretty good about it. AJ's looking at the quarterback. We have Ryan Day, will be all good. Yeah, getting behind your coach and feeling really good about your coach if you're a fan, or, and I don't know, like, look at half of the people that cover Michigan. I don't know, even 75% are pretty much just super fans that just happen to be working in the media, doing talk shows, writing for websites. 75% of these guys are just complete slaps. Like, hey, it's all about Harbaugh. Now, they're looking good for the last 2 years. It has been all about Harbaugh. So those guys are sitting around saying, hey, yeah, look at us now. Now, right now is a good time to be a Michigan fan. Are we going to have a 50-and forecast for Shannon Goodwin? Scott, again, I'm going to put myself in the category of this one feels a little, I feel like I would be jumping on the coattails. I think this was just me getting an easy number of me just getting, I think Goodwin is going to Michigan. I think all along he's been going to Michigan. His dad went to Michigan. He's done nothing but talk good about Michigan. When I when I look at the buzz from Seth Berry in the Maize and Blue Review, he sounds like he's going to Michigan. Josh Henschke, from the moment that I had heard of Goodwin, he has been talking about him being ticketed to Ann Arbor. Trevor McHugh from the Maize and Blue Review has been saying the same thing. So everybody is all saying it. I feel like me jumping in. So I only want to put that forecast when I put a little work in behind it. This would be an easy layup. It would be a number, which would be nice. But no, I'm not going to do that. Although I feel like it is happening. The Buckeyes are a cult. There's a lot of sports fans that are cults, Antoine. Let's just be honest about that. It's true. But I get what you're saying. That Scott is not buying my earlier. Let's let Hausmann. Let's just see if he can contribute, and let's see if he can, fortify the defense. However, I was saying, I don't think I used the word fortify. Let's see if he can get into the mix and make this year's linebacking core better than last year. Scott's not having it. Hausmann will be a star, he's saying. See, so we're not all disagreeing. Now, if I was a Buckeye YouTuber and, Scott comes in and says he thinks Hausmann will be a star, I'd say, I do too. This guy's going to be a superstar. I mean, everybody can't be a superstar. The uncertainty about OSU's quarterback situation is overblown. This is from the punters. They have a strong record of quarterback play. Add to that a stable of top wide receivers. I'm expecting that OSU will have it figured out by November. Well, there's a lot that goes into that, punters, and what you're saying to that. When you're talking about uncertainty being overblown, if we're sitting here saying, oh, McCord, this guy's going to blow. Like, he's highly rated. They didn't just find him off the street and say, hey, let's, this wasn't like 1-800 3-star. They reached on some guy and now they're expecting him to be in here. He was one of the top guys coming out of high school. Dave, or whatever you want to say about him, and the offense, they've got exceptional talent around him. So he's got a chance to be, fabulous. If you look at, you're talking about the track record of Iowa State, you just look at the track record of big-time programs, putting big-time players in there. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that he could be great. But here's the thing. This is the key word to me, uncertainty. There is that. Last year, was it Clemson playing in the game early in the year against Georgia? I think that's what it was. It could have been the year before, but I think it was last year. And Clemson had Trevor Lawrence, down the line what they'd been doing and how Dabo Swinney had been developing his quarterbacks and how he'd been recruiting. And then they said, here's DJ Uiagalelei. Nobody knew how to say his name, and then everybody knew how to say his name because they thought he was going to be a superstar. And DJ Uiagalelei had everything around him, and yet didn't look like all that much as a 5-star QB. The dude, the next 5-star that played in the Orange Bowl for Clemson, Klubnik, I think his name was. I was expecting him to go into that Orange Bowl and look fabulous. 5-star, everything around him, track record, everything else. And he might end up being a great quarterback. Hey, DJ might end up being a great quarterback. But Klubnik, watched him. Was I overblown? My point is that we have seen many 5-stars. Shea Patterson coming in to Michigan, if you looked at the highlights when he was at Ole Miss, it was like, this guy's going to be a savior. The Shavior. And the truth is that Shea Patterson was an all right quarterback, but he wasn't all that. He couldn't throw the ball downfield from the pocket with any accuracy. He wasn't all that good. So even if you're a 5-star, there's uncertainty. You could tear it up in high school. There's a lot of factors that go into it. You ever listen to the former players that, I'll bring on here sometimes? These guys, when they get in, they all know who's the 5-star. Everybody's saying this guy's great. And a lot of times it's the 3-star within 2 weeks. They know by watching it. Like, this guy's better than the 5-star. Just like that. After 2 weeks of college ball. Those are weird things. So I don't know about it being overblown. It's a factor. We don't know. I think we'll know, punters. I think we'll know when we see him against Notre Dame on the road. I think he goes out there and plays pretty well. That's going to be a test where we're going to say, okay, now you're going to be dealing with somebody, that's another one of these top-rated, top-notch OSU QBs. But I don't, the uncertainty is warranted. It depends. Like if you're a Michigan fan, you're like, I don't know, they're going to break in a new quarterback, got to play in Ann Arbor. This guy could suck. That's a little overblown. If I'm an OSU podcaster saying, I would just sprinkle him in. He's going to be as good as the last 2 QBs that we've had. This guy's awesome. Day, these wide receivers, he's got it all. That would be a little overblown too. Here's a good point for you that I think we can all agree with. Ohio State podcasters and fans are going to overblow the chances of McCord being good a little bit too much. They're going to overblow it a little bit too far. And then Michigan fans and podcasters, they're going to undersell it a little bit. So, when they say that truce in the middle, we'll see. Now, we all hope he sucks. Andre says, no one compares to Jabril. Don't even start. That dude made it fun to watch Michigan. Bona fide freak. Yeah, I like Jabril myself. Ernest already pushed one linebacker away. Ooh, look at AJ, I think, coming in a little bit on the Hausmann. The Hausmann. I don't know if it's a bandwagon. Scott, is Scott the conductor of the Ernest Hausmann bandwagon? Let's see what he says here. Ernest Hausmann will be first team all Big Ten this season. He will be better than Junior Colson. All right. I'm going to say that is the leader of the. I am going to announce Scott as the leader of the Ernest Hausmann bandwagon. Let me screenshot this one. There it is. First team all Big Ten. I did something in this offseason, Scott, with first team all Big Ten. Michigan had a couple all Big Ten players last year, but you need to be a little bit careful with it. Let's just walk through it. Do I think that Mason Graham could be all Big Ten? I do. Do I think Chris Jenkins could be all Big Ten? I do. Those are just 2 players on the defensive line. Is it realistic to get 2? And then considering what else I'm going to say, I would say that Jenkins has a better chance than Graham, although Graham, you don't put anything past him because he got out of the field and took over as a starting interior defensive lineman as a freshman, which is almost unheard of. But I would put Jenkins as the most likely candidate as a defensive lineman. What about all those edge guys? Do you think any of those guys, if you had to pick one guy as an edge that you would say, hey, we think if we were voting, and so who we get the starters, I believe, will be Braden McGregor and Jalen Harrell. And then behind them, you'd have Josiah Stewart. Am I right about that? On the one edge, and Derek Moore. I think that we would get a lot of votes for Josiah Stewart. Is that a little bit of a reach for the fan base? I mean, the guy his tape looked great. Agent Zero stamped the recommendation to get him in here. Talking about Mike Sandra still saying, hey, you got to get this Stewart. And then he looked like an all Big Ten performer, flashing in the Big Ten game. So are you going to pick him? I would pick Jalen Harrell. So The first level, I would pick Jenkins, and then I would pick Harrell. As a linebacker, you're picking Hausmann. I would pick Junior Colson over Hausmann. Michigan fans, by and large, are down on Junior Colson because the Maryland game, there was a play that was shown over and over again where Colson was out of position. He was reaching at a player, and he missed him. And everybody's like, Junior Colson's overrated. And then became a narrative. I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm saying by and large, that's my opinion of it. But if I had to pick one of the linebackers to be all Big Ten, I would pick Colson, Harrell, and Jenkins. And then when I went to the secondary, I think everybody would pick Will Johnson. I would also put Rod Moore in the mix there as all Big Ten potential. So who are the players that have all Big Ten for Michigan? All Big Ten potential on defense? Let's go through them quickly. Rod Moore. And then we go to the cornerback position, and we go to Will Johnson. There's two. Junior Colson, Jalen Harrell, Chris Jenkins, 5 defensive all Big Ten players. I mean, how many are we going to go with? I don't know how realistic that is. Will Johnson seems very realistic. Jenkins seems very, and Colson. So then we're getting 2 more there. So now you got Hausmann in there. On offense, let's go through these quickly. All Big Ten, JJ, Blake, Donovan Edwards. Can you have 2 all Big Ten? Good. Considering how stacked it is, I'll go with Blake and JJ. Roman Wilson? No, I mean, like, Ohio State's got Ibukwe and Marvin Harrison, those two, and you only have 2 all Big Ten wide receivers. You're going to be in trouble there. How about Loveland? There's 3. Offensive lineman? Can I give you Zinter Keegan? One of those guys. I'll go with Zinter. 4 all Big Ten players on offense, 5 all Big Ten players on defense. This team is loaded. They are. We've got the Hunter Dickinson news coming up. We'll get to. Scott's pretty high on McCord, but AJ is not. OT wants to talk a little bit about Underwood. Go compare Underwood's tape to Davis. You'll want Underwood. You know, the tape that I saw from Bryce Underwood was 30 seconds long, and it was from when he was a freshman in high school, and he was throwing to Samaj Morgan. Maybe it was last year. But he looked like Andrew Luck. Looked like a combination of Andrew Luck and Dante Culpepper in his prime. He was standing there and he was looking, I was calling Mahomes, looking a 20-yard laser into Morgan. Now that was a highlight tape. That was just out on the field throwing it around. Once I saw that, I didn't know how much more tape that I needed to see. I'm like, I want the guy. OT. I'm going to watch Belleville play this year. That's going to happen. That might be. I don't know how I'm going to contain myself be coming in if I watch Bryce Underwood, if Michigan is still in the mix and I'm out there watching him at a high school game. If he's great, take him early. Exceptionals leave in 3 anyways. No, we're talking about Underwood. What are we talking about? Shane is talking about Sam Webb, has already said that Campbell called Davis's father and said Boley would only be recruited from the 25 class from my insider account. Well, that is a rival account, Shane, and, nothing against Webb. If you should be on the Maize and Blue review, I read that same thing. Not from the guy that you're talking about. But he talked to Davis's father as well. Davis has been busy for the last 48 hours on the phone. But nothing against Webb. But I don't know. Maybe they do podcasts, or maybe he just does his Michigan radio show. I'm not 100% sure. Here's somebody throwing out another rival. The source was the other competition. Start some beef, Dennis. And look, this is the way it goes. Is the way I look at it when you're covering Michigan. Some people like it in TMZ style. Some people like it in NPR style. And then there's other styles. There's a lot of reporting going on with the same stuff, and so there's guys you trust and the guys that entertain you, and you make the choice. What else can I say? I don't really know the guy that you're referring to. I do know Webb, but look, I am going to tell you this, and I want you to believe it. I've been around bits and pieces of this game for 30 years. What I have seen from Josh Henschke, who is the publisher of the Maize and Blue Review, I really like the approach. And I didn't know this when I started with the Maize and Blue Review. Like, Josh could have been somebody shooting from the hip, making up all kinds of stuff, acting like he was some kind of, acting like he was some kind of a scout, all these different things. And what I've seen from Josh is that he is fair, goes to the source, knows what he's talking about, and if he doesn't, he's not acting like he does. I appreciate that. I really like his approach. And again, there's nothing against any of those other guys, but if I was just getting into it, I would tell you, and this is, you say, hey, you're going to be pretty biased, so I could get that. I would go with Josh Henschke from the Maize and Blue Review if you're considering, going for Michigan inside information. Now, you want wild stuff coming off from out in left field, you might want to go with the other one. I want to go with, I don't know how to deem the other guys, but that's what I'm going to say about the competition. Bring it on. OT would bring in Boley with Davis. Boley looks better, and he's bigger. Yeah, well, that ship sailed, OT. Like, you want to be in the room with Michigan and being in the recruitment. That's something that 6 months ago, when you're making the decision on what you're going to say to the recruits, what you're going to say to Davis, if you're thinking about reclassifying, that ship has sailed. Talking about something that you could have talked about 6 months ago, and now it's obvious that Michigan didn't go that direction. What sense does that make? Why sabotage a kid that's coming in that the staff obviously did not make the determination that you have or somebody else did? Why stir something up when there's nothing there to stir up? I mean, if you're unless that's your MO, why should you be stirring stuff up? Hey, you don't like Davis, that's fine, OT. That's what you're saying. You don't like Davis. You don't want Davis. You want Boley over Davis. Well, then you should have made that decision 6 months ago. Let's say it again. Get out of here with that stuff, OT. That's the kind of stuff that's going on here. Don't scream at me. I'm being serious. He can change his class. What are you talking about? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, AJ. Here's what I think. Boley can change he's right now, he is a quarterback for the 25 class, the same as Underwood from Belleville. That's my understanding. And if he was going to reclassify, he would reclassify as a 24, which is where Jaden Davis is. If he wanted to reclassify, I would not be interested at all in bringing him into this year's class. That's my stance. And if he wanted to come in as a 25, I need to talk to my staff, and I want to see how they're ranking him. Maybe they think Boley is better than Underwood. Well, then bring him in. If he wants to commit, let's go. But maybe they think Underwood, and we'll just go by how Rivals ranks him, maybe they think Underwood is a once-in-a-lifetime guy, and they should throw and put all their apples in that basket because they think they've got a pretty good chance because they have brought him in the last month, and they've been talking to him. Those are things that are tough to sort out and figure out. sometimes a bird in the hand is better than, a couple 5 stars in the bush or whatever. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about drama. Shane coming back over the top. Underwood or bust, 3-year starter and 1 natty. See, now I believe that there is a conversation that could be true. Plus, he's 30 miles from campus. I like guys in your own backyard. OT's now coming around to our kind of thinking. All right. Who knew that we were going to sit around? I thought we were talking wide receivers. It's gone over to rivals, and it's gone over to quarterbacks. Let's get to some other news from today. It's not good news. So let me give you a broadcast reminder here. If you're somebody that just enjoys maize and blue pom-poms, that you don't want to hear anything negative about Michigan, that everything is just bouquets and flowers right now, we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock, everybody. Thanks so much. Now, if you're somebody that wants to know about this latest news, we turn to the basketball program and the news with Hunter Dickinson. Hunter Dickinson has made a decision. And now, look, he's gone. Now, you can say he's been gone. I've processed this. Not everybody has. Or they did, but then you were left, with the thought that maybe he would come back. But now that 100% is not happening. And Hunter Dickinson is headed to Kansas. So how do you feel about this? This is a tough spot if you're a Michigan basketball fan. Because not making the NCAA tournament last year was a big blow for the Maize and Blue. It's a huge hit for Juwan Howard. And this is not just, you can say, oh, you win some, you lose some guys are going to take off, whatever else. This one's kind of multi-layered. You think about football and basketball right now. We know how important name, image, and likeness is. You could say Hunter just has to go somewhere where he could get the most money. He was looking for money. He was also looking to upgrade his team. And it's tough when you're Michigan and you're taking a back seat. We talked about this last week or maybe it was just a couple of days ago when we were talking about Ward Manuel, and somebody was like, I didn't like what happened, how he wasn't able to keep the baseball coach. Well, Michigan baseball, they're not in the same tier as Southern teams. We know that. It's not fun to accept, but it's true. It's not fun to accept that the Michigan basketball program right now, you can make a case that they had been in a lower tier than Kansas anyways. Kansas is definitely a blue blood, but Michigan, when it came to name, image, and likeness, their sales job to the fan base was that, no, we're not going to play it like everybody else. We've got a different plan. The guys that stay around, they're going to get rewarded. And with football, they did that. Keegan, Zinner, Corum, you go down the list, a lot of them. Jenkins. These guys stayed and they were rewarded handsomely with name, image, and likeness. They got paid. Hunter Dickinson, as the top player ever to get in the transfer portal. It's only been around a couple years. But so not only do you not make the tournament, Dickinson, and, from his standpoint, I get it. Even if Dickinson came back, is this year's team with Hunter Dickinson, when you look at it with the guys that they brought in, you feel like they're a sure thing, slam dunk, better than last year's team? Nobody thinks that. And we know what happened with last year's team. So Dickinson's like, do I come back with a team that I'm not really sure is going to make the tournament, and then I'm not getting hooked up with name, image, and likeness, so let me go ahead and put my name in the portal and bounce. And Kansas has stepped to the plate and said, hey, here's the cash. Lead us to a title. Hard to take. It's a huge setback from a Michigan basketball program standpoint. And he's a big man. And, with Juwan Howard, I mean, it hurts. And name, image, and likeness for basketball, most of the guys, and I think they're going to change this, but you can go pro after 1 year. Football, you got to stay around for 3 years. So those that will stay will be rewarded. It's a different game than basketball. If Michigan was playing the NIL game like most other top 25 teams, they would have got the dude that ended up going to USC. What was his name? Isaiah Collier. If Michigan would have said, hey, yeah, we're hooking you up. You come in, we'll give you a 7-figure deal. And Collier will be gone after a year. They would have got him. He's the number 1 player in the country. Michigan could have had him. But their approach was, hey, you got to stay around. Well, Dickinson is the poster child for Michigan and what they said with name, image, and likeness. They should have been giving this guy everything. And yet, even with giving him everything and coming back, you can't say that Michigan would have been an NCAA tournament team. So they're in a tough spot. It's a huge setback for Juwan Howard. And it just shows you, man, the program and where it was a couple of years ago. And then, I'll say they barely made the tournament, but they did a nice job when they got into the tournament 2 years ago, but not making it this past season. And then, just the feel. I mean, you get the feel. Not a very good feel. So it's that's where it's at. I don't know how much I'm going to be talking about the masked man anymore. That's it. I was still holding out a little bit of hope that he would come back to Ann Arbor, but that's the end to it. We'll see. Michigan still does have 2 scholarships. Let's go with this one. This would be a great one. Antoine, I don't think anybody's got a lot of. Dave is talking about a recruiting reporter. Roderick laying it down, going back to football. Davis is the one from 24. That's right. I like the, let's see, we get some Hunter Dickinson stuff. We'll give you the reaction of Hunter Dickinson. Hunter's basically making the same move as Keon Coleman. I see what you're saying about that. That makes sense to me, Andres. A horse can only be led to water. You can't make them drink. I like the don't blame the horse. Yeah, all that's there. He's gone. I want to end this show with something that today, for me, I sit around talking about, basketball and hockey, which I've been enjoying, which I have, but staying up late. It has been fabulous. 2 things. One is the mushrooms. There they are. I live in an area where this particular guy that you see here in the middle, that is gold. Absolute gold. I have never picked one. And yet, apparently, I live in the area where these mushrooms, these golden mushrooms, early in spring, after a frost, when it's been rainy, that's when you can find these. Now, I'll say about 10 years ago, probably more like 20, I had a friend of mine call up, and he had been in the UP, and he said, I've got 3 garbage bags of Morel mushrooms. Do you have any butter? And I did. And he brought these Morels to the house. And he fried them up in some butter. And these little things, they taste like steaks. They have a unmistakable flavor. And they are priceless. But the weather's got to be just right. Everything's got to be the climate, there's everything, the soil. So, and I'm really I look here or there. But I'm going mushroom hunting, foraging this afternoon. So we'll see how I do there. I'm going to take a look and see if I can find somewhere else. Tell you what, if I come back tomorrow, you can see there'll be some excitement if I'm able to do that. The other thing, and I'll be brief here, is I'm going to talk about golf. I hit a lot of golf balls, and I think that, being honest, I should be a better golfer than I am for as much as I practice. I practice a lot, and I get out there and I hit it, and I'm like, I can't believe it, 3 or 4, and I can't even hit it straight. I was like, why do I put so much practice into that? So all of that, I go out there today, and the first swing, I don't remember what I was thinking or anything, and I just look up and I just see it flying down the middle perfectly, where I could say, this would be the perfect shot, and there it was. And then I did it again, and then I did it again, and I've said to myself a few times, if I could hit 10 just perfect, you know, that's what I'm talking about. Now I'm feeling it. So I'm at 5, I'm at 6, and I'm like, this is happening. This is happening. I'm at 7. I'm like, just keep it going. You're only as good as your next. Boom! Stripe it right down the middle. And if a golfer would watch me, he might look at my swing and be like, but the results, nobody could argue with. The results would be like anybody on the PGA Tour would be happy with. I don't know how many of those guys probably hit 100 in a row. And I get to 9. Boom. And so I get to the 10th one, and I said, this is what I've been talking about for the past couple of years. Hitting 10 and hitting it perfect. Nice and easy, right down the middle, striping it, nice and easy, the perfect shot. I've hit 9 in a row. I get to the 10th one, woof, right, and that was it. I put my hands up and I said, this is what I've been waiting for. So I'm feeling really good. But I have to go test that again today. Probably hit like 6 in the, in the woods, but 10 in a row. I'm feeling great. I'll report back with the mushroom count, and I'll see what I can tell you about all this quarterback movement that's going around. Everybody have a great day. Hit the like button. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow here on Good Afternoon, Michigan Football.